What is going on? You are listening to TAGSPodcast, aka Talk About Gay Sex Podcast. I am your host, Stevie. This is episode 471 in the middle of a Pride promo giveaway. A little more information on that in a bit. But of course, I'm joined by my co-host, Jeremy Ross Lopez. How you doing, Jeremy?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. Thank you very much. And of course, joining us as always is Kodi, Maurice, Doggette. How the hell you doing, Kodi?
Hello, darling. I'm doing it well. You know how I do.
Doing it well. I love it.
I love it.
Nice. Well, we have got to get into so much. Jeremy, happy Pride Month. I don't think we got to talk to you.
Yes, happy Pride.
Happy Pride.
Yes, absolutely. You know, one of my favorite things to do often, you can celebrate Pride in so many various ways, but one of them is watching movies and specials that come across during the month of Pride, and the Wanda Sykes Netflix special, y'all, is hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
I highly recommend it. I know you saw it, Kodi, yes?
Oh my God, we were watching it at the same time. It was so funny.
Yes.
Not even planned.
I mean, not only is she just hilarious in general, but she really brings in the climate of what's going on politically, makes it funny. I mean, she said something like, Black people can't be weird. White people have the Renaissance Fair. What the fuck is that? And then she said, and did you know, the white people will be like, did you know Lizzo plays the flute? And Wanda goes, she doesn't play it with her asshole. But she managed to bring in relevant topics, things that have made our way, like Ahmaud Arbery and people like Elijah McClain, who have been Black victims of crimes that by the police and so on and so forth, and still find a way around it. She brought in drag queens, and it's so relative, always hilarious, and I just think you guys got to check it out. Any things you want to say, Kodi, before?
I loved it. I loved every second of it. And her talking about being the only Black person in her family. I tell Joe that all the time. We are not adopting a white child because I won't be outnumbered in my own home. I tell her all the time.
I love it. You know, there was one thing I did try and watch, and I love Neil Patrick Harris and his husband. I did try and watch their new Hulu special, Drag Me to Dinner, drag queens, and it's a little bit of a combination of a food show competition where they put two drag queens, task them with cooking a dinner, although I don't think they really are. It's a lot of silliness, and then they all eat. I didn't love it. I thought it was a little all over the place, but maybe you guys will. Have any of you guys seen that yet?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, I don't know. Kodi, I know you love drag queens. Are you in for this one or no?
Against my better judgment, because I wasn't supposed to watch it without Joe because he's away right now. And I watched the first 10 minutes and I'm right there in the same boat as you, Steve. I was like, what is going on here? It just didn't engage me. So I'm right there with you.
It was as if they just turned on the cameras and had at it and let everybody do their shtick, but it was too much chaos, I think, to really hone in on any one funny moment for me personally. But audience, you let us know if you're a big fan of it. Let us know why you like it, and if there's other things you're watching. We love when you guys reach out to us and talk about past episodes. And on YouTube, the JW Variety wanted to talk about the Ursula's look, and I know both of you saw the movie of The Little Mermaid, currently in theaters, #1. The JW Variety wrote, agree 100% with Kodi on Ursula's look. Walked onto set looking like Boondock drugstore Fisher Price on my first drag queen. Get a Miss Fame, a Violet, a Raja, or a Katya. Any of those girls would have done 1,000% better than what we were given, and you know they would have gotten along better with Melissa. I don't know about that last part, but what did you, Jeremy, think? Because one of our recent discussions were the straight makeup artist that did Ursula's makeup, and it was a little bit of a controversy because some drag queens felt that it should have been a person within the LGBTQ+. We already gave our opinions, Kodi and I, but Did you have problems with Ursula's makeup and look?
I mean, I didn't see her out of the water in the entire movie, so I think for the most part it looked really good in my opinion, and it was dramatic, and they got really close to what the cartoon looked like, and when you see it in 3D, I mean, I didn't have any complaints of the whole entire movie or any aspect of it.
I love it. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we love.
Nice.
We want to stay on you, Jeremy, because on a recent episode, Tags Live, Kodi was out of town, but Teddy Alexis popped in to help co-host. We were talking about poppers, and straight people are finding poppers these days. And there's a CDC warning, do not drink poppers, as if you had to tell people that, but apparently you do. And one of our listeners, our live listeners that particular night mentioned, asked Jeremy, because I've heard him talk about poppers before, if he's tried the spray poppers. And what he meant by that was you spray them into a cloth, a washcloth, some sort of fabric, and then you put it up to someone's face and then they inhale. Did you know what this reference was, and have you tried them?
Yeah, so I've done Maximum Impact, which is a popular one of the spray poppers, and I didn't love it. I definitely prefer the bottle more, but I used them with someone at IML a few years back when I went.
International
And
Mr. Leather.
yeah, and they weren't strong enough. I don't know. I don't really like the whole cloth thing as part of it too. Like having them be on the cloth and then sharing that with someone else. And I don't know. The bottle just is hotter and definitely gives you a better hit.
Oh.
Yeah. The one thing I would say about it too is the bottle, you can do it yourself. I guess the only hot factor is you could kind of make a whole scene out of it, put it in some fabric, and then, if you both were in consent, put it up to somebody's face and make them do it kind of in a BDSM.
Yeah,
which
like
makes
you
sense.
can like suffocate them with it, but I don't love the aerosol part of it.
Yeah,
It's giving kidnapping for real. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. We didn't get to ask you though, Kodi. Have you tried those before or knew about them?
No, and I'm kind of glad that I actually wasn't on that show because I've never heard of it. And my first thought was you spray it on the person, like bug spray, kind of, sort of. So I'm glad.
Oh my God.
I know, right? So I would have been useless in that conversation. So
Yeah, they have a skull and crossbones on the bottle, so maybe that. No, I'm kidding. They don't.
Maybe the warning to not drink it is actually for me, you guys. I don't know.
Exactly. Let us know if you're doing that out there, listeners. Well, we are, like I said, in the middle of Pride promo giveaway sponsored by AdamsToyBox.com. All month long until the end of Pride, you can get 25% off all toys, lube, and everything they offer there. Just use our promo code TAGS25 and go to AdamsToyBox.com. But also take our survey right now. And thanks so many of you that have been taking it. You're all entered, and those of you who want to can enter it. And you'll be able to win one of two Adam's Toy Box plus some Tags swag. All you got to do is go to TAGSPodcast.com, click on the link, take our Pride promo giveaway at the very top. It's on every page, and fill out our survey, which will help us, and then you'll be entered into the giveaway. Okay, time to get into a hot topic, and not our favorite person, but George Santos marked Pride Month by trashing the rainbow flag. That's right. George Santos has acknowledged Pride Month by slamming the rainbow flag and saying the only flag that represents his is the stars and stripes. He further went on dismissing the flag as a product of Gay Inc. Mafia. Santos, who's only 34, was responding to a tweet wishing everyone except Santos a happy Pride Month, accused the tweet's author of virtue signaling. And he's nasty, actually, you guys. I get it. If you're a public figure and you go on Twitter, people will come for you. But instead of, like most people, ignoring a silly one that doesn't wish you Pride Month, he always lashes back with a really nastiness. And he didn't stop there. He said, I will always stand up to the radical rainbow mafia. I believe in the freedom to live and let live, but will never bow to the indoctrination of the rainbow mafia. My flag is the American flag. I think we can have more than one flag, people. I don't know why he is.
I think it sounds like homophobic closet case vibes.
Boop, get him.
Yeah, and it's like he's out though. And so somebody questioned him and said, "You're gay though, right?" And he doubled down on the whole it's gay mafia, and
like, it's not a mafia, it's just a representation of a community.
Right. And the flag continues to emerge, and he didn't even get the history right, because it was started in the late 70s by an artist. Gilbert Baker came up with the pride flag. He died at the age of 65 in 2017. He was a member of the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, who have been actually the target of recent months. We're talking about Dodgers game in LA. And he was a friend of Harvey Milk's. Baker created his original rainbow flag following a request from Harvey Milk in 1977 to come up with a symbol for the growing strength of the LGBTQ community. Other designs have sprung up in the years since. So this idea that it's the rainbow mafia, what are you talking about? I mean, Kodi, any thoughts on that?
Completely ridiculous.
Yeah.
When you said he's not our favorite, we're going to be talking about not our favorite person, I was like, okay, either George Santos or Ron DeSantis. So
Thank you.
I was like, it's one of those two. So, but Miss Santos, Katara, I am not with her. The good thing about America is that it encompasses and is supposed to welcome all different types of people and groups of people. And I think that's why we can be defined by many flags, like you said. And the fact that he doesn't want to associate himself with us, I say, take your ass on. I don't need you. I don't want you. Just go ahead on. Bye, boo.
The man has bigger problems that he has to worry about. I mean, he's indicted in several counts, and not only in this country, but in Brazil. So he's got bigger fish to fry. I think he should stay off Twitter and not fire back so easily, especially when he doesn't have his facts right. Okay, well, I put it in your feed on our Zencaster, but it's been 5 years since this man died from a 10-incher, taking a 10-inch dick in his mouth. And he has some advice for you. So the guy's name was Freddie Alanis.
He nearly died. Nearly died.
Did I say he died?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. No,
it scared me. I was like, oh my gosh, he died? Oh no.
He did not die. It's been 5 years since this all occurred.
Yes.
At the time, he was 19 years old, from Chicago. And it went viral during that time with a tweet in which he revealed he'd ended up in the emergency room after a sexual encounter went wrong. Alanis had hooked up with a man who had a 10-inch penis. And after enjoying some rigorous, rough oral sex, Alanis realized something was seriously amiss. A trip to the ER confirmed he'd torn a hole in his windpipe and required emergency surgery. He ended up staying in the hospital for several days. And a few months later, this is where it had a twist. He posted a photo to Twitter. He said he was just sharing it for those friends who he'd told about the incident. He didn't expect it to go viral. Well, a magazine wanted to do a whole article on it, which he did do. And at the time, he was not out. So he gave an interview to them.com, I believe, to offer more details. And he said his parents were unaware of what had happened. However, they duly saw the article and did find out. Alanis says they were super upset about it. His sister also received messages from trolls saying her brother should kill himself. And his advice after all this on his latest tweets has gone even more viral than his original tweet 5 years ago. He took the time to respond to some of the comments asked by one person how to best avoid this happening. He replied, "Never suck dick at an angle. And if you must, don't force it because you'll almost die." Almost die. See, there you go. And people thanked him for that. It's kind of, I'm so happy has a sense of humor over it after all these years. He's super adorable, and like, at least in the picture when he had this happen. I think the advice is, if your family doesn't know about something like this, don't post on Twitter once again, and don't do an interview if you don't want everyone to know. I mean, I'll just share my story, which I've shared on the show before. I've ended up in the emergency room not with a 10-inch, but a 10-inch dildo that ended up inside of me. Many of you will recall I told this story before where it got detached from the pump that it was associated with. And it was the middle of the night, and I went to the emergency room. I was very calm. I was very happy with the way I handled it. An emergency room visit later, and some really great doctors, and a lot of help, like I was pumping out a baby. We got it out, thank God. And I'll never forget, they asked me, did you want to keep the dildo? I'm like, no, throw it away, after it was like covered in blood. Trauma. I guess you could say I've told people on this show, which we have many listeners. So I sort of did the same thing, but my parents do know I'm gay, and I'm pretty sure it's not going to get back to them on this, but you never know. I mean, Jeremy, what are your thoughts when you hear of this guy? Do you think that, things happen? And what do you think of his advice? His only advice is don't suck a dick at an angle if it's 10 inches.
I mean, I would just recommend that you practice with toys before doing so. And I don't know if the angle will really help with the amount of space that takes up. I also probably would not have taken to social media about it, whether it was going viral or not.
Yeah.
Because maybe the gay mafia might come after you, right? So, but yeah, I agree with you too. Play with toy. I mean, I think so many of us are excited. He was only 19 at the time, poor guy. He went from 0 to 100. And I do think, I don't know about the angle thing either, if that's, but you do want to practice, I think, if you want to try that. But things like my story just displayed can happen.
Yeah.
And I think his sense of humor is really good about it. I ended up having a good sense of humor about it. I ended up knowing I'm good in an emergency by myself and didn't panic, and knew enough to calmly walk into a cab and get myself to the emergency room. And they helped me. Accidents happen. But Kodi, what are your thoughts on Freddie Alanis's story and where he's at now?
Yeah, I'm just glad that he's thriving and he's doing well. And I agree with you guys. I think that the hospital wouldn't be able to say anything about this incident. If he didn't out himself, then his parents still would probably be in the dark. So maybe this is like a blessing in disguise. You never know. But I'm glad he's doing well. And the whole ankle thing, I'm kind of confused too, because I feel like I've sucked dick at every angle, and I don't understand how it could do that. But maybe a demonstration is in order. So I'm here for it. Just let me know.
I mean, I guess if you kind of break it down, if what he's saying is if it's 10 inches and it's at an angle, it's poking more and more at the top, and maybe, whereas if you angle, I don't know why I'm going through this, but accidents happen.
Again, we need an example. We need to see a live demonstration of this. So, okay, come on, Freddie. Come on the show.
It's
Show
called
us a demonstration.
It's called porn. I would check it out. Yeah. Well, staying on Twitter, gay Twitter is currently at war over whether total tops are actually total tops or just bottoms with IBS. And do you guys know what IBS is?
Yes.
Yeah. Irritable bowel syndrome. I'm going to read you some stuff, but we actually had a listener write in, and I'm going to pair up some stories here. Somebody caused a lot of controversy when they wrote how many tops are tops and how many tops are just gay with IBS. And this was the user _KXDYN. He has 2,100 followers, and people were not happy with a lot of what he said. How dare you? It's June 1st. And Zachary Zane, who's going to be on this show soon, wrote, "This felt personal." He has a brand new book called Boy Slut, and we'll be talking to him early July. But it was interesting because it's an actual real thing. Irritable bowel syndrome is a common disorder that does affect the stomach and intestines, and also called the gastrointestinal tract. And symptoms include cramping, abdominal pain, bloating, gas, and diarrhea or constipation. And only a small number of people with IBS have severe symptoms. And some people can control their symptoms by diet, lifestyle, and stress. More severe symptoms can be treated with medical counseling. So I mean, I'm talking to two tops, and I think, did this hit a chord when you heard this, Jeremy, with you, or what were your thoughts? And then I'll go on.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like a stupid joke, and I also obviously it's not true, but
I
yeah,
do.
that's my opinion. I don't think it's like very funny and doesn't have any truth.
Thank you, because that's exactly why our listener
It's that
wrote.
simple.
It's why our listener wrote in to us, and all these stories came about. I read it because I think a lot of people don't know about this, and that a good significant portion of our population do suffer from this. I'm going to read a little bit more when I actually wrote to Dr. Goldstein, proctologist, because he actually wrote on this. But before I do, Kodi, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think the two are mutually exclusive. I am a top, versatile top that really enjoys topping, who just happens to have a little touch of IBS. I mean, I'm not, I'm not necessarily a bottom all the time, but I get what where they're coming from. That a lot of people with IBS probably would like to bottom more, but I just think it's kind of ridiculous because if you don't want to top, there's plenty other things that you can do.
Yeah, it's a little too low-hanging fruit to come after a community that does suffer for this and accuse everybody that maybe there's less tops in the world, that they actually have IBS. And it's not very kind to the people that are really struggling with this. And there's a great article, like I said, Dr. Goldstein wrote about. It's worth me putting up on TAGSPodcast.com. And I know I sent it to the listener, but one of the things he did says is before someone with IBS tries anal sex, they need to try it and establish a solid foundation to help control systems. So someone has a triggering event or is experiencing an active flare-up, no matter what they do to prepare, like douching, they're setting themselves up for failure. And typically the first step in building this foundation is to keep a food diary. And he's talked about this before on the show. And you can do a food diary in general if you're just bottoming in general. If you're worried about being clean or not, he's a big proponent of, like I said, food diary and what, some people respond really badly to spicy foods as opposed to other people that don't. And other people, you can do things like take a fiber supplement. Well, when you talk about fiber supplementation, what are we talking about? There's all kinds of ones the one that works for me is Stay Ready by, I'm looking it over at my, Stay Ready's their name, but it's essentially
Pure for Men.
Thank you so much. And Pure for Men's one. Dr. Goldstein has a fiber pill that you can take. There's other versions of it. He always recommends taking it at night, so you have all that sleep time that when you wake up, you're releasing, and not to be TMI, but it bulks up your poop so that way you really don't have to do a whole lot of douching. I mean, it may be a quick rinse, but it does really work if you're doing it regularly, if you're watching your diet. And he goes into other ways of how it's not impossible, but there is no sure 100% success rate. I think the key that he's talking about in this article is you kind of have to do a scientific experiment on yourself and find out what works. Really, I mean, and that's kind of true just for bottoming in general. I mean, I know when I've gotten back from a trip and, just travel in general, I try and take a probiotic when I'm on a long plane, because if I don't and you're eating plain food, I get cramps. And I would not want to bottom like right after that because it's just not the best. And so, and you also don't want to resort to taking Imodium, which can stop everything and is not really natural. So I don't know, Kodi, did you have anything to add to this?
I've been taking fiber for a little while now, and it's been working wonders for my irritable bowel, and I highly recommend it. I keep Joe on a steady rotation of fiber pills, so I think that's the way to go, honestly.
Yeah, and it's like you want to watch your diet too, but we're entering summer, and you also don't want to not be able to eat what you want too.
Yeah.
Right?
I love to eat whatever I want. So that's probably why I have the irritable bowel.
Oh, you do suffer from this then?
I feel like I have a little. I haven't been diagnosed with it, but I feel definitely that I have something going on down there. So I
Got it.
should go to the doctor. Maybe Dr. Goldstein can help me out with it.
Absolutely. He would love to see you. Okay. Well, we've got to move on. And, there's a recent study of new HIV infections and where we're at with it all. PrEP is, of course, helping bring down HIV infections, but there's still a major hurdle that still remains. And the CDC says HIV transmission rates among gay and bi men is continuing to fall in the US, thanks largely to PrEP. However, persistent health inequalities across the country are slowly progressing, and they tend to affect the Black and brown communities. There were 32,000 HIV diagnoses in the US in 2021. That seems high, but which represents a 12% drop from 2017. And the figure was even more startling in young gay men. Those aged between 13 and 24 showed a 34% reduction in transmission rates. So the 2021 figure was an increase on 2020. However, experts think a lot of it had to do with the COVID pandemic. PrEP is working, but the Black and Hispanic gay men are far less likely in general to be prescribed PrEP. Only 11% of Black people could benefit from PrEP were prescribed it, compared with 20% of Hispanic people and 78% of white people. And the CDC notes the greatest improvement was in the number of people taking PrEP to prevent HIV. I guess the whole point of this study is that those numbers are high when there's something out there that can prevent it. We're not talking about STIs, but we are talking about, HIV. You can live with HIV today. We're talking about U equals U, but if you can avoid getting that, why wouldn't you? And I just think we had the creator CEO of Mister on our show recently, Tags Live, and you can get it for free. I know, Jeremy, you've tried it. Mm-hmm. I've tried it too. Do you think it's just a matter that we're not getting to certain communities, Black and brown, that they wouldn't know about this? Or what's your thoughts why we still have infections every day?
I'm not sure. I don't know if they're not discussing it like among their friends and things like that, because I feel like that's really helpful in getting sometimes the knowledge that you need rather than either from social media or reading articles or anything. I think word of mouth really helps, and maybe they're just not talking about it among their friends, but I'm sure that people in the community still are. There are plenty of people that are on it, and maybe they're just, like I said, not informing their friends that they're on it, but they are. And so I think it would definitely be helpful if people were aware of what they could take.
I agree with you. And, when you think about certain things like this, yes, Mister is available, but we're assuming maybe we're talking about communities that don't always have access to good internet access, right? Where many of how it happens is you go on the Mister website, you have to do a consultation. If you're not online that much, you're not getting a lot of this information. Maybe the answer is to be more present in where people go out and on the apps. I know Grindr is doing a whole thing right now where they're sending people kits to test yourself for HIV. I hope that a lot of the other ones are doing similar things like that. I don't know, Kodi, what are your thoughts on, do you still think that number's, even though we've come so far, it's still a little bit high?
Yeah, I definitely think it's high, especially with PrEP being out there and having that to rely on as far as protecting you from catching HIV. It's definitely a high number. I think that I agree with you guys as far as the word is not getting out there. And I think a lot of it has to do with advertising to Black and brown communities. But I also think that I'm just going to focus on Black and brown communities because that's where the percentage of people taking it is the lowest. I think that in addition to the advertising, I think Black and brown families need to have more honest and open conversations about sexuality in general and become more accepting of homosexuality and things of that nature. Just in general, I'm sure there are families out there that are fighting the good fight and are very comfortable. But in general, I think that the more that everybody is exposed to the knowledge to be able to combat HIV and to become more comfortable with sexuality in general, then the more equipped we will be to handle it.
This episode of Tags Podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp. Hey guys, your buddy Stevie here, and as you know, we love giving advice on this show, and I think we do a pretty good job of it. But sometimes you need a little bit something deeper. And I'm thinking of a time in my past relationship where I was on a downward spiral. Things weren't working out. I really didn't have anybody to talk to about it, and I was really depressed. I went to couples therapy with my boyfriend at the time, and I can honestly tell you it worked for us. We were having so much difficulty communicating, not seeing eye to eye, and a friend wasn't good enough because I knew they were just going to take my side. Couples counseling and therapy worked for us tremendously because it really got us, most importantly, to hear each other, to communicate to each other, and ultimately to respect each other. We're always growing and evolving in life, and that's probably one of the best things about aging. But it's also important to know when to ask for help, and help can come in so many ways. I've learned so much now that when in need, to simply ask for help. Therapy is all about deepening your self-awareness and understanding, because sometimes we don't know what we want or why we react the way we do until we talk through things. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who can take you on that journey of self-discovery from wherever you are. Therapy can be so helpful in so many ways. You can find yourself in a deep depression, and a good therapist will give you the right tools, be a great sounding board for you, and really get you back up on your feet. I know it did for me when I was in my relationship and we sought couples therapy. It really just got me out of that deep funk that I was in that I couldn't seem to get out of, certainly not on my own. If you're thinking of therapy, you should really give BetterHelp a try. It's totally online and designed to be convenient, flexible, and totally works with your schedule. All you got to do is fill out a short questionnaire and you get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists anytime you want for no additional charge. So discover your potential with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/tags today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/tags, TAGS. Nicely put. I agree. Staying on U equals U, there's this great article on HIV Plus magazine, or Plus as they call it, where reflecting on 7 years of undetectable equals untransmittable. And that's not necessarily when this all came about. It was really when it became in the ethosphere, I believe. As we know, more popularly known as U equals U, it's the globally accepted scientific consensus that continues to change the lives of people living with HIV, and it has also become one of our number one tools in the fight to eliminate the virus. It simply means that an HIV-positive person on treatment and who has undetectable levels of HIV in their body has a nearly 0% chance of transmitting the virus to a sexual partner, even without the use of a condom. And in the 80s and 90s era, medications were available to treat HIV, but they were ineffective and often they were toxic. And many diagnosed with HIV at the time, as we all know, didn't survive. It really wasn't into the late 90s that a group of people came up, the science changed, and in 1996, advancements in HIV treatment changed everything. Antiretroviral treatment, ART drugs, were developed, and they proved to be highly effective in stopping the spread of HIV within the body. researchers soon after discovered that once on treatment, people living with HIV could reach undetectable levels of the virus. But it wasn't until a group of people, more recently activists in 2016, formed the Prevention Access Campaign, and they coined the term U equals U. And I feel like since we've done the show, we didn't really talk about that. I mean, it sounds like it was around since the late 90s. Of course, they needed more time to do science if it really was anti-ART drugs making HIV not show up. But it's really not that long ago that U equals U came about. And I'm glad this campaign really developed because it's changed the landscape to take much of the stigma away. But, I will say, in reading a recent Reddit thread, somebody just wrote this the other day. They wrote, "After my HIV diagnosis, I focused on my mental health and am now ready to date again. I disclose my HIV status on my dating profiles, but have noticed a significant drop in reply and interest compared to before. Should I not disclose my status?" And a lot of the people said, definitely keep it. You may attract less flakes. It's a win-win. Somebody else wrote, "Keep it in your profile. It will save you the hassle of dealing with guys who aren't comfortable with the situation." Somebody said, "Disclosure is best, whether you do it on your profile or after a couple dates. Testing." So some really good, encouraging remarks. But Jeremy, when you hear of where we've come with U equals U and where we're at now, do you think a lot of people really understand what that really means? Particularly when you hear of a guy writing on Reddit that's really asking the question, are people not approaching me as much when they find out that I'm positive, even though I'm undetectable?
I mean, I think that people are still always going to be uneducated, and you just don't know. You have to discuss it and talk about it in order to sometimes let people know the differences. And I'm sure that there are still bunches of people that don't understand what undetectable means. And I think that it's important to be open about your status, and I know that it's easier said than done. And I also know that having less people interested, or just less on the apps or profiles and stuff like that, can be disheartening. But I do think that in the long run, you'll end up meeting the people that you're meant to fall in line with.
I like that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's interesting because I remember in the 90s when we didn't know about U equals U, I was dating a guy, lovely guy. Oh my gosh. It was in just a prime time, and he was HIV positive at the time. And I, at the time, didn't let it bother me. I said, okay, that's great. We'll just use condoms, which we continue to do, which you can do today as well. I think you have to take control of your own sexuality if someone tells you that they have that. I had a friend of mine tell me recently that, I mean, I'm just being honest, when he does find out, he still has a little thought in his head. What does that mean? I said, well, are you asking the person if they're undetectable? Because maybe that needs to be your new questioning, not so much that they're HIV positive, but then ask them, have a conversation like Jeremy just said, are you undetectable? And if have a full-on conversation about that. And then beyond that, if you're also doing your due diligence, if you're on PrEP, I think you're pretty covered, as much as you're ever going to be covered for anything. The other thing, too, is you can always use condoms as well if you really want to go that route, too. So instead of fear, like Jeremy was talking about, I think this guy, I commend him for being honest. I think more conversations about the word has definitely got out, U equals U, but clearly not enough. And if it's only really been 7 years, I think we need to continue to have these discussions, which we will on this program. But Kodi, what's your thoughts on all of this?
Yeah, I think that the stigma is going to be out there until people become educated. And the more that people become educated and talk about this, the better off everybody will be. I do also think that as far as disclosure is concerned, I do think that it's kind of like coming out as gay. You have to be in a safe space. You have to feel comfortable with the person. So I think that as long as you are doing your due diligence as far as protecting all parties is concerned, then make sure that you are safe, paramount.
Right. And whatever safe means for you, right?
Exactly.
I think you can only do, so nice. Okay. Well, a couple more topics here. One of them was a Reddit thread that came across, and I had to ask. They write, turns out sober sex is actually pretty stellar. I kind of can relate with this. Never any super hard drugs, but love to incorporate 420 poppers into the mix. But realizing through multiple encounters that actually it's easier to make a connection when not under the influence. At least for me, I've kind of learned on poppers to help guarantee that a hookup will be good, because even shit hookups can be fun with them. But then you just spend the whole time zonked in your own world instead of connecting with your partner. Not using substances and just focusing on being present actually can make for a better overall experience, which is totally Captain Obvious, but sometimes the brain needs a reminder. I love this guy's honesty writing this person's writing this, because I've been with people before after a drunken night and we had a lot of fun. I'm thinking of a guy recently, but we both thought we need to do this again, but under more sober circumstances. Less margaritas for me, and I'm not sure what he was drinking, but I do think that inhibitions are, you can have amazing sex. I love poppers as well, but I don't want all of my sex to just be drunken or popper sex. So I love this guy's honesty, and I do think there's something to be said about it. Kodi, let's just start with you on this one. What are your thoughts on sober sex is pretty stellar?
Yeah, I think so. I love having sober sex. I love all sex, honestly.
Most straight people would just say sex, but I love how we have to differentiate the fact that it's sober sex versus...
Because there's nothing like going out to the club and getting a little bit intoxicated and then going back home with the person. So I can see the allure of that as well, but there's nothing like connecting with somebody, being of one mind and having sex. And I just think it's great transcendental experience where you can make a night out of it basically, and do some tantra if you want to. I don't know. I just think that all types of sex are amazing, and that sober sex can be just as amazing as having sex while you're under the influence of something.
I like that you said tantra, because one of the comments mentioned that as well as something to explore, particularly if you've been in a long-term relationship with somebody. How fun would that be?
Oh, yeah.
Jeremy, what are your thoughts on sober sex being pretty stellar as opposed to being under some sort of influence?
I actually prefer it over being under any influence, but I don't mind a little bit of poppers, but I don't like drunk or high sex much at all.
I'm going to back you up on this, because when Jeremy's done at the club or a night out, he just wants to go home and put himself, take a shower and put himself in bed. We've shared spaces before. He is not into that. And you've shared several stories before on a lunch break, meeting up. And I know you weren't doing anything where under the influence, and you had a great time. So
yeah, and I'm always like ready to go in the morning rather than like super late at night, or especially after drinking like a ton. And I just feel like a lot of situations that I've put myself in the past, it can be messy after a certain hour and after a certain amount of drinks or being under any influence.
Absolutely. I agree with that. I'm going to start practicing. I mean, yes, I'm going to put it into motion more. I didn't write it, I promise. But yeah, no, I agree. And it's a good lesson for us all to mix it up if you find yourself in one of these situations. So let's do a hot topic.
Cool.
And it comes from, we're all talking about brands right now. Some brands are getting thrown in the pond, others are being held high. Patagonia. This one is GQ, and they got dragged over a recent tweet, so start with Twitter, about swimsuits for guys with stockier builds. So essentially what happened was they put a picture of guys and with 7 swim shorts made to show off stockier builds. And let me just put this in our feed here so you guys can look at the picture on what I'm talking about. There it is. Essentially, it's a group of 5 guys, and like I said, they're wearing not short shorts, but I have a pair of shorts like these, bathing trunks like these. So they go up to your, would you guys say upper quad?
Yeah. Upper thigh?
Yeah.
I mean, those are like really short. Those are like, if you have any thighs or ass, they become like up to your balls.
They look good though, right?
Well, I just want to
They
know.
look good, but these are not like stockier
That's what I was
builds.
going to say. Where are the stocky guys at? These are not stocky guys.
Okay, well, the thing about it is they wrote 7 swim shorts made to show off stockier guys. And if we could do a descriptive analysis on this, the 5 guys they have in the picture right now are all have 6 packs. All are on the more leaner side, I would argue. Do you guys agree with me? I'll post this on Tags podcast.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we were just to do a Merriam-Webster dictionary definition of what stocky is, so we can have a little comparative analysis. Compact, sturdy, and relatively thick in build. Blame Merriam. It didn't take long for people to notice that none of the models in the article featured actually fit that definition. Some people wrote, well done, GQ. That picture is a perfect representation of stocky. And they were being snarky, of course. And most of them had similar things like, let me see the beefy boys. It's a stocky. They just went on me looking for the stockier builds in this photo.
I love that picture, by the way.
Is that somebody famous?
No, it's just a meme that's out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, got it. So clearly they missed the mark. And after realizing their error, GQ posted a follow-up tweet owning the mistake and saying it had swapped out the image. We appreciate everyone who rightfully dragged us for the choice of the photo here. Our bad. The image has been swapped. What did they swap it out for? A picture of nobody. Instead, photos of 5 muscle-bound dudes in swim trunks was replaced with an image that just showed the swimsuits with no actual bodies in them.
Girl.
Well, that
was their easy way out.
That was their easy way out. Like, we fucked up, and now let's just put the swim.
Did you see when you go further down Gotham Rugby?
Hot.
Like that's what stocky is.
Okay, so
almost every single body in there is
I will
stocky.
post this on Tags Podcast, and you make such a great point, Jeremy, because Gotham Rugby is a rugby team, I'm imagining, right? Mm-hmm. And it's how many guys are in that photo? It's
at least 20.
Yeah, with great bodies of all shapes and sizes, with thick thighs, almost the way you described it, Jeremy.
Yeah, so Gotham Rugby is a premier gay inclusive rugby club in New York City.
In New York? Oh my God, wow.
So you guys got some locals in that photo.
I was gonna say, do I have to take my tail to a rugby match? Okay.
Well, obviously, they're in Fire Island in that photo because that's definitely a Fire Island pool.
Rugby is rough, y'all. And
I'm not going to play.
Oh, yeah, my 50-year-old ass is not about to join this, but I'll be a spectator with you, Kodi.
Let's go.
Yeah, because we can be good cheerleaders for sure.
I love you a skirt. We can get matching skirts.
Absolutely. David Clark at Writer Clark posted this. Yeah, I mean, Jeremy, what are your thoughts on all of this? And what did you think of GQ? Then their rebuttal was just to post a picture. Was it the cop out?
Yeah, I think it was definitely the easy way out. I don't know. I just think that an editor or someone should have noticed that that's not an example of stocky, because stocky is something referencing like dad bod, which a lot of people love at the moment. And the only place that, in my opinion, because I've been surrounded by more straight people as of lately than gay, is that you'd only find this at a gay place. Like this many guys with all the abs and that fit, and it would never be considered stocky.
And let's be honest too, because
like that body's less normal in a hetero sense of like beach and swim and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, a couple things that you just said ring true. I do agree with you, that body that we're looking in the picture that they made the mistake on, that they, first of all, didn't get it correct. But number two is, if you go to any number of gay events, I've been to plenty of them, whether it's on a cruise, you're going to find this type of body, but you're also going to find a lot of other types of bodies that are very proud and embraced too. So these are clearly models, and that's great. And we're happy for the way they look. But I think in this day and age, brands should know a little bit more to be truly inclusive and representative of our community. That you got to do a lot better.
They missed the mark for sure, and I think that when you look at people like Rihanna's the swimwear and her evening wear, Fenty, Savage, they have like a good representation of different body types for men and how you could look in them. So I think they just missed the mark with making stocky part of their tagline if that's not what they were going to represent.
Yep. And I think that they can go. You can totally make a lot of money by advertising to that particular body type, because everybody likes to, we're all talking about representation and diversity, but people like to see themselves in the advertisement. They like to see themselves in the movie. That's why The Little Mermaid is so successful right now, because Black people can see themselves in the movie. So they missed the mark, and they missed out on money. So, and that cash is king. So when you talk to them, I'm going to let them know.
Yeah, it's almost unbelievable that somebody at GQ of all places, and we're talking about GQ online, wouldn't know enough to, okay, they did this, we got it, we made that mistake, but then they could do a quick photo shoot tomorrow, and they could have did this great inclusive one and got community members of all shapes and sizes and came back with something. I mean, maybe they would have been accused of pandering to a crowd after the fact of being called out, but they could have said something like, we get it, we will do better, we hear you, here's our first foray of part one, and that would have been good. Instead, their response was, we hear you, and here's just some swimsuits with nothing and nobody in them.
Even looking like you're pandering looks better than nothing. So.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And with some clever verbiage. I mean, you're fucking GQ. At this point, get it together. So
I just sent you guys a little thing of what I consider stocky.
Ooh.
Oh, and I will post this on TAGSPodcast.com. And Jeremy sent a Savage Fenty. And this is exactly stocky and hot. And
what's his name?
Yeah.
Vladimir.
Ooh.
By the way, what's everyone wearing this summer as their go-to swimwear? I'll start with myself. You know, I've worn Speedos throughout the years, and I still will, but I'm very particular on where I'll wear them. It has to be like Puerto Vallarta, Gay Beach, and obviously Fire Island. I will put on the cutest one that I can find. But I also am into kind of those shorts that they were showing on GQ. They're kind of working for me too. It's like a hybrid for me. I feel comfortable in them. Jeremy, what's your go-to swimwear this summer?
I feel like I always go towards like board shorts, and on the shorter scale, but definitely with plenty of stretch, because I like to be comfortable, and I also like the ones that have the inner liner, like so that you don't have to wear anything inside, but I don't like the netting.
Oof, oh, yeah. Me either. Yeah, that seems so like when I was in grade school. Yeah. Yeah. And those that don't know, Jeremy's a fish. When he gets by
I never get out of the ocean.
Wow.
No, ever. Kodi, what's your go-to?
Yeah, I love some hoochie data shorts on the beach. I like short shorts, but I also love a Speedo. I just got these really cute ones from Darkroom brand, and they zip up in the front. I got me and Joe a matching pair. So it's so cute. I can't wait to wear them.
Okay, what are they called again? We need to like get them as.
They're from Darkroom brand.
Darkroom brand. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's a UK based brand. Let me see if I can find them really quick.
Okay, well, we can post it on TAGSPodcast.com. Yes. That's all the time we have, guys. So much fun. Thank you. You can always follow my co-host. You can follow Jeremy on Instagram at @JRossLopez. @JRossLopez. Follow Kodi. He's a life coach at KMD Coaching, or Mr. Maurice. And follow me on Instagram. I am _Steve V. Or follow the show at TAGSPodcast on Twitter. We really appreciate it. And guys, thanks so much. Always great to get into it.
Yeah, always so fun.
Real quick, Jeremy, you're going to be in Providence, Rhode Island for Pride, yes?
Yes.
Okay, well, anybody going to Providence, Rhode Island, say hi to Jeremy if you see him. I know he'll appreciate it, so check him out. I'm going to be at Kylie Minogue concert, Deborah Cox, Taylor Dane on June 17th. In the what is the Jones Beach Amphitheater. So if anyone's going there, let me know. I'll look out for you. We'll have a kiki. And Kodi, you're going to be on the dance floor at so many spots for Pride. Where?
Always. So just different parties. We haven't made any definitive plans yet, but
Girl, get it together.
I know, right? I'm always such a late planner, and I even want to go to Kylie Minogue, but I haven't bought the tickets yet. So hopefully very soon. I'll keep everybody informed.
Sounds good. And in the meantime, continue having hot gay sex.